was at Thane. There again, after going there, we had tough time because Jaisalmer squadron had gone as a range duty squadron at Sri Lanka. So we were asked to shift from Pune, our flight, to Jaisalmer. That was again a road
Okay.
movement, convoy movement, and it took about 3 4 days for us to reach there. There, what happened is, as our main squadron was at Thane, when we started from Pune, we were told by the commander of 2219 to come to Thane, visit them, and then go. So we parked the vehicles
Sir.
outside Kolshed, and myself and my flight commander, we went to the Kolshed at Thane, our squadron. We made CO, took his blessings, and when we came back, we found that none of our vehicle was there. They were all scattered.
Missing.
We
All
asked
missing.
police and other people. They said, no, it has gone. It has
Ah.
gone because of the parking problem over there. Police did not
Okay.
allow us to park any vehicle over there, and it was totally
But did not intimate you,
stacked.
sir? Did they not intimate you? I think those days no phones, I think. Communication system.
No, they couldn't intimate because there was no communication at that time.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
so
How did you feel about it when missing up those things?
no, then myself and my flight commander, we were in the jeep. So we kept on driving till we met the first vehicle. We stopped him somehow,
Okay.
told him, "You be here," and then we collected all the vehicles one by one, and then onwards the convoy went smoothly. But this was, of
Okay.
course, it was due to the police problem, because parking problem. In fact, I mean, we
Yes,
all
sir.
of
So it
anyway.
must be again great relief after finding your vehicle.
Yeah, we were really relieved after seeing all the vehicles together.
Right,
So
sir.
we went to Uttarlai, again erected ourselves and started operations, all those things. Again came back and installed in Pune. After that,
So
uh,
how long did you serve in this missile squadrons, sir? SAM missile squadrons? How long? For about.
about 11 years.
So
About
did
11
you,
years.
so out of that 11 years, was there any occasion wherein you fired the missiles in the real kind of
Live,
thing?
live,
Live,
no.
live, yes, live.
No, no, no. There was
No,
no chance.
no opportunity.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay, sir, okay.
Live
Right.
firing was not there.
So
Only the range
only
firing.
training part of it.
Only range
Right.
firing.
Okay.
Any
Okay.
questions you want to ask, you are most welcome, please.
So nice, sir, for letting us know the technical part of it, particularly about the missiles, about the radar and the height and how they are operated, how the chain of command is given, particularly in the SAM and radar kind of thing. I think which was not known to all of us, in fact, previously. So thank you for sharing all the knowledge in this regard. So I'd like to, yeah, finally, sir, how did you feel about your journey in Indian Air Force, sir? And what is the great learning from Air Force?
Actually, I was very happy in the Air Force, but at the same time, as my child was growing, I mean, he was in 10th by that time. So it
Sir.
was ideal for me to stay at one place. Otherwise, I would have had to put my son in hostel or something. But fortunately, one of my friend, he had factories over there in Pune, that DB Electronics, Inventa Electronics, and Vistar Electronics. So he was going to Delhi in an aircraft. So he just gave me a ring and asked me whether I can meet him at the airport. I went there, I met him.
Sir.
And he asked me, when are you coming out of the Air Force? I said, why? Are you giving me a job? There was no idea
Okay.
that I will leave the Air Force that time. He said, yes, that's
Uh-huh.
why I'm asking you. I said, it will take at least maybe 7 to 8 months or maybe 1 year. He said, okay, we are ready to wait. So I put up my
So you got
papers.
a great friend to have who helped you when you needed.
Yeah. And immediately I got the 31st of October, I retired. And 1st of November, I was in the office, Vistar office, Vistar Electronics.
Okay. What
Hey,
was the role, sir, into marketing kind of thing in the civil side?
marketing,
Sales or
yes, I was
marketing?
doing.
What is it?
Right, I will tell you this DB Electronics and Inventa Electronics used to manufacture UPS systems, uninterrupted power
UPS,
supply systems, and
sir.
Vistar Electronics was doing marketing and after sales support for the same. So I
Sir.
was the support manager. I was required to do marketing as well as after sales support basically, which is very,
Okay.
very important. This is
Okay.
in short.
How did you make use of your experience in Indian Air Force in the civil side, sir? How did it come to your help
Uh,
experience, Air Force experience?
See, Air Force experience is really great experience because you know how to deal with men, how to deal with your friends, how to deal with your colleagues, and how you react in what situation. And that's
So
exactly
and
exactly.
how to deal with the challenges also.
Yeah, of course, of course.
That is the
You're
main thing.
right.
Yes,
I
sir.
forgot about that.
That's the most important thing. So, in fact, we learned so many things which otherwise would have not learned civil side, being in the defense part of it. So yeah, what would be your, if you ask it, if you have to give one single message to our air warriors on the call, out of learnings from the Air Force, what would be your single message to our air warriors, sir? Out of learnings from Air Force.
Learning from the Air Force. Don't fear about anything. Face the situation, whatever you have come across, in cool mind and with braveness.
So come way, be fearless.
Yeah.
Be cool-minded.
Be cool-minded.
So that will, yeah. So thank you so much, sir. Now we have some of the war heroes of 71 on the call, like our Group Captain Das, sir. So a Longavella battle hero. And we have Wing Commander Karnik, sir. We have Wing Commander Quatra, sir. They have been decorated with gallantry awards of Veer Chakra. So now I request them to, and we have also another great ground warrior, Brigadier Ajit Apte, sir, is also on the call. Welcome, sir. I know you have joined the call and so kind of you. So now I would like to request Brigadier Apte, sir, to ask something about the missiles or radars part of it. Yes, sir. Brigadier Apte, sir. If you can hear me. I think meanwhile, sir. Yes, sir. Group Captain Das, sir.
We come at Karnik here.
Yeah, Karnik, sir. Yes, sir.
When you fire, Gadar sir, when you fire missiles in a salvo, how many missiles at a time in a salvo?
2 missiles at the difference of 5 seconds.
At difference. Another thing is, when you said you people went from Jodhpur to Uttarlai in a helicopter, and then when you noticed the aspect of the Pakistani enemy aircraft and our aircraft, and you could not make out which is which. But we use IFF, identification friend or foe. So whenever we fly in the war, especially predominantly, the IFF is always on.
Correct.
So why you had to question the pilot and ask him?
No, sir, we have seen this situation. That's why I'm commenting about it.
Okay. And
so both together.
How many years service you put in the Air Force?
22. 21 and a half, you can say.
21 and a half. Anyway, thank you for your talk, because on the missile side, we were there for 11 years or so. On the missile side, we people, I was a fighter pilot and all that, we hardly know anything about the missile side, the operation. Now your enumeration and what you told us now has really educated me what the composition of the flight and the composition of the squadron and things like that. Thank you.
Oh, so nice of you. Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
So, yeah, now, sir, our Wing Commander Gadre, sir, is on the webinar, sir. You may ask him about anything connected with radars or SAM missiles. He's expert on that. So, if you'd like to ask anything about those things, sir, Brigadier Apte, sir.
Good evening. I'm Brigadier Apte from the artillery. By any chance, are you related to the famous Gadre brothers in the army aviation and artillery?
I think Gadre was there. I met one with Colonel Gadre, but I think he was from Signals, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, sir. Sorry, my fault. Excellent. I heard you. I was in between on the video switched on. But I just want to ask you one question, that as far as the air defense aspect is covered, we also have got artillery air defense regiments, and we got now the missile regiments also. So what kind of integration do you have with the Army Air Defense, that is purely the air defense regiments?
Army Air Defense, basically what missile they have, surface to air also, heat sink type of missile. They take the heat from the aircraft or the target. In Army, whatever surface to air missiles are there, they are basically heat sink type of thing. That means they take the heat from the target and follow it and go and hit it. In air, command guidance system is there. In case Army has more knowledge, surface to surface missiles than surface to air missiles. I'm not too sure about it.
Apte sir, kindly unmute. Yes, speak, sir.
I'll tell you, my question was this, that I am aware of the air defense and the missile systems of the Air Force. I am only asking that in your overall air defense umbrella, defensive umbrella, we have got the Army Air Defense Regiments. 71 war, I remember, we didn't have that sophisticated equipment or radar equipment. We had the L-70 guns and we had the Super Fledermaus radars and the other pickup systems on the eastern front, on our front. But I am aware that the present system of the missiles, like we got the 510 and 512 missiles, and there are all the SAM-8 versions. So is there an integrated air defense system with the Air Force? Because what will happen is, in case of an attack, as Group Captain Karnik brought out, how does the Air Force integrate into the fire plan with the Army missile systems or the Army Air Defense Regiment? That is my question.
No, you are right, sir. That must be at certainly with some level or the other. I am not quite aware of it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you, Brigadier Apte, sir.
But you know, Gadre, the range and Brigadier Apte, Ajit, the range of the Air Force missiles, particularly SAM-2s and SAM-3s, was in the region maximum 40 to around 22. Your artillery missile range, I'm not too sure, but it would be much lesser than the Air Force area of influence.
Brigadier, sir.
Correct, sir. I agree with you. That's why you see what happens is, in the configuration system, we work out firstly the area of interest and the area of influence, and the gap we try to cover by some method where we leave no zone what should I say, exposed for enemy aircraft to penetrate, but they can still penetrate, but there is an effort to close that gap. And that's why in the joint, integrated systems between the Army and the Air Force, this planning is done right in the beginning. Of course, in 71, it was a different spectrum because of the availability of equipment and the ammunition systems and the ability to acquire the targets. Air Force has got definitely a more superior system. So I was only wanting to know how does that integration take place. But Group Captain Karnik has brought out a valid point. And I'm sure there must be much more to it, but probably we may not be able to picture it right now together.
No, they're bound to have integration, this thing, because the SAMs of the present day, the range is much more, number one. Now, in any case, with the advent of S-400 and things like that, the whole ball game changes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Anything, sir? Brigadier Apte, sir? Anything further?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's fine. You know, all these OSA AK missiles and all which have come in now,
Sir.
that will make a great quantum difference in, highly mobile, low altitude, short range tactical surface to air missile systems, which have, an operational range of 30 kilometers. That's what we have. And of course, there are newer systems also coming in. Like we are having these SAM-8 missiles, which I mentioned to you about. So fine, I think we are okay. What the answers given are absolutely fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining and further enlightening on this topic, Brigadier Apte, sir. Yes, sir. We have Wing Commander Patra, sir. Yeah, you may like to ask anything on missiles or radar part of it, sir.
No questions from my side.
Sir.
In fact, I'm totally aware of our system. But if you want to educate the who decorated, because we are from the past. For the latest thing, I think the best person will be Air Marshal Joshi to cover it.
Okay.
And he will be able to even educate all of us. I know on my station where I was put, that was in Sirsa, 86, 87, we had SAM-6 missiles also giving air defense cover. And CAP used to be flying on top during the exercises. They were not supposed to descend below 4 kilometers orbit overhead until unless the threat is crossroad, because missile used to cover from 30 feet and 30 feet in height, and height used to be almost 2 kilometers with the range of up to 20 kilometers if I am not mistaken, because I used to be sitting in managing the complete operation on the base of in charge of the complete thing. We used to give them an autonomous control to air defense system if when they are in the receding mode. That is the time we used to catch them putting missiles on hold and let the aircraft descend and catch the target in their receding mode. That's a beautifully covered by Wing Commander Kaldre, and on the movement and how actually SAM-2 and SAM-3 functions and their launching system and their coordination very nicely. I mean, I learned a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Wing Commander Kaldre. All the best to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So
I would like to ask a question.
Yeah, please.
India has almost agreed to purchase a S-400 from Russia, and America is opposing it and trying to put some restrictions on it. Why is it? What is the importance of that S-400 missile system, latest S-400 Russian missile system? Please show some light on it.
Yeah, who can do this, sir? Vinkam Gadre, sir.
S-400, the Russian, it started with about 200, 300, and now 400. The range is much more. And what I read from the magazines and newspapers and all that, from that it is far superior to the American Patriot and the other missiles of that nature. So besides, the politics of it is that the Americans do not want us to go in the Russian camp as far as the missile technology goes. Because once we gravitate towards the Russians, then slowly and slowly, as and when newer and newer missiles come, America will get sidelined in a big way. And that is why this is not the military people's thing. But on the technical side also, the Russians are ahead.
Great, sir. Thank you, sir. Karnik, sir.
If I may just say one
thing. Sir.
Yeah. The Barak 8 missile has recently been inducted, or it is being inducted. I am quite sure of that. And it's got a range of nearly 70 to 80 kilometers. So that is something what the Indian Air Force is going in for. As Group Captain Karnik said, the S-400 is an upgrade on the S-300 version. But he's got a valid point as far as the acquisition from this erstwhile Soviet Union or from Russia right now. And they had, I think, put this into action in 2007, which is nearly 14 years. But if I am not wrong, the Indian Air Force has already gone in for acquisition of some Barak 8 missile, which will give a range of about 70 to 80 kilometers. That is an enhancement itself. And that will then, integrated in the overall air defense missile system, along with your fighter bomber aircraft and the other air defense systems, in which I am quite sure that even our OSA-AK missiles will be integrated from the air defense, that's the ground version or the army system. But that will get better known once we know the spectrum of its capabilities and how to use them. This is my point. I don't know how far I am right or wrong.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Brigadier Apte, sir. Yes, sir. Group Captain. Go ahead, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you, sir.
I was posted in Srinagar and Bathinda where those Pichora squads were there. Especially, I remember, especially
2202 squad.
2202 squad. I forgot who was. That was 1977, 78, 79.
Dhanjal was there.
Correct.
Dhanjal, Canberra pilot.
So, we used to carry out lots of exercise with Pichoras. And,
of course.
And every week we used to have a combined exercise. I used to be flying NATs. And we used to come from, you were given a independent freedom of come any direction, at any level.
Yeah.
And, in a NAT, we could fly very low. Very, very low. And Srinagar airfield being on a plateau, we used to come below the plateau level.
I know, sir.
And every time after the exercise, we used to have
SAM-3.
SAM-3.
In SAM-3, there is a beautiful. In SAM-3, there is a beautiful stimulator, and this stimulator generates missile, which when you are actually flying, that simulated missile on our screen goes and hits the target. It's only simulation.
That's what I'm saying, that every time we used to have an exercise, so whatever direction you come, whatever level you come, you said you are shot. We acquired you at 10 kilometers, we shot you at 5 kilometers. So it appeared to be, at least during the exercise, appeared to be a very, very effective missile.
Correct. Exercises are regularly conducted. And especially when we were at Ambala, that exercises used to be very, very fun because aircrafts used to fly, and we on our own we used to track them and simulate and hit them or whatever you call it.
Yeah. And if you jam the radar, they get you on TV mode.
Yeah.
So and quite a few times I used to go watch from the missile control vehicle. It appeared to be very effective because when we used to plan strike across into Pakistan, we were very very apprehensive about their Proton missiles. The Proton also seemed to be a very, very effective missile system, airfield. But like Brigadier Apte, whatever he brought out, more than this airfield missile system, we are more scared. I would say scared actually about the number of missile systems that the army had. Our own army, because they had SAM-6 and SAM-7. I really don't know what kind of integration they had, because that was a big headache. I remember we used to discuss about it. How do you keep the missiles tight when you're flying over the TVA? There was to be no answer. But right now, I think with the AWACS coming, the integrated control system of battlefields coming up, there must be some system of keeping this missiles tight when your own aircraft flying over. But actually, what Brigadier Apte brought out, that is actually was a big concern for us, that we should not come back from limping from a strike on the other side and get shot by one. That used to be Brigadier Apte being from army, I mean, he understands the concerns of I'm very amazed that he is thinking about all this, about Air Force flying over the TVA with so many missiles. Right now, I think things have become much dense. Air defense system about the TVA has become very dense, and I don't know how they're going to really control this missile. Thank you so much.
In fact, if I may kindly interject, Mr. TBR.
Kindly, sir.
I think
yes, sir, kindly.
Group Captain Gohain has brought out a very valid point. I'll tell you 2-3 things. We have something known as guns tight and guns free, and it was applied in the 71 war because we've got a lot of Air Force fighter pilot veterans here who, like me, were there in the 1971 war. And both on the Eastern Front as well as the Western Front, the guns tight and guns free was very, very important, because at least on the Eastern Front, I will say with a lot of authority that our Indian Air Force knocked out the PAF nearly 98%. And we achieved total air supremacy, which enabled the airborne offensive, which enabled the heliborne bridge, as was brought out by Air Commodore Sridharan, and also gave us full tactical mobility to race to Khulna, and I was part of that, so I know that. But on the Western Front, which a lot of fighter pilots here, very experienced senior people, will have realized that once they came back, the Army Air Defense had to be very, very careful, because identifying enemy aircraft and identifying our own aircraft, that is why it is very essential for the Joint Operations Information, JOI, which we have every morning, to get to know how many fighter bomber missions are going out from the Air Force for carrying out long-term interdiction, short-term interdiction, how many caps are there, and what is the tactical battle area on which they are going to operate. Because at times there can be an excessive saturation of aircraft flying into that particular airspace. Whether it is own aircraft or enemy aircraft is difficult. And Group Captain Gadre will definitely have this experience, because when we fire our own missiles, we have to be very careful. So this is a very good point which Group Captain Dave Gohain has emphasized on. And this is something which we also in the Army have been trying to ensure. And you see, in today's concept, the bomb lines change very frequently. I don't know in a future war how it will happen, but you got better GPS navigation systems. But in 71, you ask all our very veteran pilots here, including Group Captain Karnik, and they will tell you that the identification of the bomb line and identifying it with a ground feature is difficult. And especially in an operations on the Eastern Front, which was virtually an advance to contact. In fact, the Indian Army was racing so fast, I'm telling you, that it's difficult to maintain what are the bomb lines and what are the forward line of own troops, what we call as plot. So I think the Army and the Air Force will need to pay a lot of attention to this. And I do hope that when the theater command concept comes up, if at all, because I know the Air Force has got a lot of reservations on the theater command concept, but I think one of them will be what is the percentage of air activity And let me also assure the listeners here today that gone are the old Second World War concepts. You will have any future war being dominated by the Air Force and by the artillery of the Indian Army, because we've got those kind of missiles and rocket systems where we can dominate dominate and saturate. So how much of the ground action will take place will largely depend on the kind of air activity and the kind of artillery activity. And I am a gunner, that's why I'm speaking on that. And I'll leave it at that, because it is something which will get worked out, I'm sure, by the present generals and air marshals who are there. But this is a very valid point which you Air Force people have brought out. And this message must go home to the Army also, because we need to sanitize the airspace for free air movement from our Indian Air Force. Thank you.
Absolutely right, Ajit. During the 71 war, of course, long time back now, we were damn scared during the daytime of this bomb line aspect, you know that? And but at night, comparatively, I was at ease. That I know, I'm sure. If at all I get hit, it will be by the enemy and not by the Indian Army.
Yeah, I think it won't be out of context to mention here. Karnik sir, this shooting down of a helicopter during the Balakot time. We shot down our own helicopter.
Yes, yes, of course. Daytime,
so
always.
Once again brings out the importance of IFF and knowing
Yes.
exactly so that if that can happen, it can happen anytime, and it can happen in real war also.
Absolutely.
That was a real war.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I wonder why people fly around. Without the IFF, when you're in the border areas, IFF is a must. You can't afford to even forget to put on the IFF, because that is our safety. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Brigadier Karnik, sir, and Group Head Gohain, sir, and Brigadier Ajit, sir, for enlightening further on the topic, apart from our Brigadier Gadre, sir. So, any other questions, sir?
May I come in, sir?
Yeah, please, sir. Bhavani Shankar, sir.
Sir, I'm Volunteer B.S. Sharma from Jaipur. Though I was not there in 71 war, I served from 77 to 98. But only thing is, I have heard so many exercises about SAM 2, SAM 3 in Sri Lanka or in actual flying also. But I never heard any missile hitting a target, means in real war. I don't know whether it was used in 71 war or not. I just wanted, from my knowledge sake, was there any case in which missile hit an aircraft or a target? I know that our helicopter was hit in recent Balakot strike, but I don't know about 71 war. Was there anybody knows? I don't know.
In 71, only SAM-2s were there, and definitely couple of missiles were launched, but I have not heard any launching which was successful.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
One launching was successful at Hardwara.
Oh, I'm not too sure about it.
No, I'm sure.
Okay, then.
Okay, I will answer. Group Captain Gadre is absolutely right. But we've had a case in the Chum sector. I am aware of it. One of our AD regiments fired a system and it hit an enemy aircraft and it dropped. It was a Sabre. And I remember Lieutenant General Sartaj Singh was the Corps Commander 15 Corps. He was with the GOC 10 Infantry Division. They actually saw this Sabre being brought down, and it was brought down by a gunner, Jagdale. He was a Havaldar with the Air Defense Regiment. That time they were not Army Air Defense, they were artillery, they were part of us. And on the spot, General Sartaj Singh gave a Veer Chakra to Havaldar Jagdale, who was the detachment commander. And the pilot ejected and he was captured. And he justified, yes, I was hit by ground fire. So that is one case I know. It has been recorded very well in the annals of military history in the Chum battle sector, in the Chum battle zone, as far as the artillery is concerned, and that credit goes to that Air Defense Regiment. Since Warrant Officer, I think...
Bhavani Sharma, sir. Bhavani Shankar.
So,
B.S. Sharma.
Yes, that is on record, Sharmaji. It is on record and documented in military history.
Thanks a lot, sir, for enhancing my knowledge. Actually, I never knew about this. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Brigadier Ajit Apte, sir. Yes, sir. Anybody else would like to ask anything?
To all, sir. I am JW Abin from Kanyakumari. I had been working in 2209 Squadron, Suratgarh, Pichora Squadron. I am very happy to hear the operation of the SAM-3 systems. Just I have a doubt. During your Sri Lanka trial or test exercise, you had been getting there dropping targets from the helicopter. So you are aware that the height as well as the movement of the targets. So how come you are able to ascertain the accuracy of the system? You say the 98% is the accuracy of SAM-3, but you during the war, you find that aircraft is moving different places at a different endure and different area and angle. So you are getting a target, a fixed target, dropping from a place at the equal known distance. So how could you ascertain the accuracy of the Pichora system by this trial?
Good question. But actually, we have not seen the actual firing on the aircraft anywhere, anytime so far, at least in India. I mean, except for that 71 war, as per Sapra Saab, they saying, confirming that one target was hit. Otherwise, we have never tried it. But when you are working on a simulator, you are from which system, sir?
I am a radio fitter, sir. I had been associated with the signals.
Okay. No issues. But the thing is, if you have seen that simulator which is working with us, simulator represents everything, and the accuracy with that, we can find out the accuracy only on the simulator. The actual firing we have never seen so far on the aircraft. But as I said, the location of the coordinates of a target and the coordinate of the missile are compared, and every microsecond, even millisecond, the command is passed to the missile to change the direction as per the movement of the target. As such, the hit will be proper, and we should not doubt it unless we actually see it.
So there is no provision to have a movable target, sir, for your trial basis in the Air Force?
No, it is not there so far. Now, I don't know whether recently it has been introduced.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you, JW Nurul Amin, sir, for your good question. Yeah, anybody else, sir? Yes, Sethi Saab, you want anything?
Sir, Rao sir, Varun and I'll ask a question, sir.
Please, sir.
Sir, Wing Commander, sir, I'm very happy. It's my favorite subject, missile SAM-3, because it was my first unit and my last unit. No matter I'm much junior, I joined only in 78 February, and my first unit happened to be 2203 Squadron. And I, being a technical person, later on become a non-technical, I had a curiosity to know much about the missiles. I went volunteer to Sri Lanka, stayed based 6 months. And that time, the floppy was been tailored by a very supersonic aircraft. And floppy used to be a dummy aircraft. And it used to also almost like an aircraft fly. And it was not a para flying. I have seen practically in the Durbins and all also the firing. 1 or 2 has hit and 1 or 2 has not hit in Sri Lanka. Even President Jail Singh has visited for that. I being 6 months there. I have a doubt is, you have said that 2 missiles have been fired. During that time, every time they used to fire only 1 in 82.
No, single. At the range, there is only single missile.
But yes, sir. My doubt is, the launcher of SAM-3 has 4 missiles loaded. 4 at a stretch in one launcher. 1, 2, 3, 4. You said 2 will be fired. Will it be 1, 3 or 2, 4, or it is 1, 2 fired? Because 2 will be at a different side, 2 will be at a different side. Which are the ones being fired? I want to know that.
That is 1 and 3. 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. Actually, at the range, only we are allowed to launch only 1 missile, not 2.
Yes, sir.
We are not allowed
all the 4 hours in the real firing, no matter exercise, all the 4 hours not been loaded. Only 2 will be loaded, and that will be 1 and 3, and 1 and 3 only will be fired. Right, sir?
No. Yeah, 1 and 3 will be fired, but 2 and 4 are ready for the next firing. You get my point?
So, which year it is during our time, this dropping of parachute type target was not there. The aircraft used to come from the civil DRDO or something like that. They used to trolley the floppy, and that used to be also a dummy aircraft like.
You are absolutely right.
Yes, sir.
But during our time, it was only basically this thing, your parachutes only.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir. Anybody else, sir?
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Gadri sir.
Good evening, sir.
I have only an appreciation for the STOs and TOs. I worked as a radio technician during the time I served in the Air Force during 65 and 71 wars. And I actually very closely worked with the technical officers. They were the very important pillars during operation and during peacetime in ensuring the serviceability of the aircraft, in ensuring the availability of the equipment, and their serviceability. And as you mentioned rightly, during wartime, we used to move from place to place, and the STOs and TOs used to take the lead and organize everything so that our movement from place to place becomes easier. And at the place where we arrived, they used to take care for establishment of workshops or technical test benches and things like that. After our chiefy, we used to feel as one of our own brother, that is a flight sergeant or something like that. Next to chiefy, we used to respect and approach the technical officers for any of our requirement. But for them, we would not kept the aircraft so much serviceable and equipment ready for a movement from place to place. Suppose we move from Jodhpur to Pathankot, and the technical officer ensures what are the equipment we should take along with us, so that everybody along with his kit, he used to make a list as to which technical person should carry whatever we have to carry. And another thing I remembered, and I was happy to remember, the movement of our squadrons during wartime, during only of 7 days. During the 7 days, we were in the train and the platform, and we used to roam around in the towns. But technical officer was our guard, who used to guide us. You leave this now, train will be here for about 5 hours. You go anywhere and come back and let us join and go. He used to look after all our comforts and all. So we used to feel he is the head of all our technical activities. I'm very happy to see you, sir, as STO. I even remember my technical officer, he was, I think, Flying Officer Louis. We used to call him Flying Officer Louis, because anytime he contacts anybody, he used to assure that, see that there is no loose item in the pen, there is no loose on the track, there is no loose item in the hangar, like that. So we used to call him Flying Officer Louis. So that's why I'm very happy to recollect all my memories.
Thank you very much.
The role of technical officers, I think it is not rather projected, but they are the strength behind our serviceability, our availability of aircraft and things like that. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for all your knowledge. I have also learned about the missile system because I was not aware. I worked in MiG aircraft for about 10 years and only going around, running around, securing things like that. Thank you very much, sir. Very nice of you. Thank you. I have
my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Subhash Chandra Bose.
I would like to remember Flight Sergeant Ratan Lal, who was awarded VSM in 1971 war. I was in 58 Squadron SAM 2 near Rajpura. He was in Halwara. Halwara airfield was not bombarded because of this successful shooting down B-57. Of course, as soon as it was fired, 3 missiles were fired, and the blip which we used to see on the radar vanished. So I used to remember that Flight Sergeant Ratan Lal and pay my homages to him. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Subhash Chandra Bose, I think you are also from radar section. I mean, you can also ask something.
Sir, I have been listening. It's a big subject, and there are so many technical issues which were, I found it as a gap of what is the discussion going on. And in spite, one is that operational point of it, another is the technical point of it. The operational point of it, to start with, it will take about 10 minutes time to explain the real operations of Indian Air Force. It was randomly discussed, but not in a sequential wise as on day today. So the operational, the system wise, when it comes to the radar of P30M, P30M means radar 30 modified. So when radar 30 modified is a radar which is a combination of P12, P15 radars, which our Wing Commander Gajre was saying. One is for the azimuth ranging purpose, another is for the height finding purpose. So when these two things were there, the P12, P15 easily mobile, and it can be operated from the low level targets to be picked up. And the P30M is also can pick up at the minimum range of 2.5 blank zone to up to 400 kilometers range at an altitude of 1 lakh feet height, and at a range resolution of 75 meters, and the accuracy of the azimuth resolution 0.03 degrees at a distance of 400 kilometers. So being this one, that is a basic concept of the Indian Air Force to have a GCI, that is called Ground Control Interception Station or Interception Radar. And this GCI basically associated with one of the Brigadier Apte was really telling many times, that is having a GLO over there, that is ground lieutenant officer of artillery, particularly artillery or infantry from branch of the army. So he was always monitoring the systems. That's where the synchronization and coordination of the reports being conducted between the army and the air force, that particularly for the interception purpose. So that is actually backed by, one is the base ops, base operations, and another is the wing command post. The wing command post, which is actually coming under the command of the particular area. So under that wing command post, when it was actually deciding what kind of tactical air mission to be engaged with that particular target or the situation, let it be ground attack or let it be a air attack. Under the process of the ground attack and the air attack. Now, for example, there is a substitute of the army also having the attack guns, and another part which Brigadier Apte was telling indirectly, that is that missile which was used by in 1970s beginning, that is Tiger Cat missile, which was adopted by the army people. That is Tiger Cat missile. And the other one is L-17, which he has said, L-17, which was used by army, that is from the Bharat Electronics Limited. It fires roughly about 20 kilometers distance at a height of around 3 kilometers maximum. That is a low flying when it is when our missile of SAM-3 or SAM-2 is not able to take on, or when the interception of the nearby ORP, operational readiness point, which cannot be taken up. This decision will be taken generally by the GCI as well as supported by the wing command post. When the wing command post decides that yes, it will be aircraft attack, or it will be a missile attack, or it will be a artillery attack. So when it is, that is the reason there will not be a misfire of any army versus the aircrafts or our friendly aircraft, because that is the reason. Another point which has been told, that is guns tight, guns free. Guns tight, guns free means when the wing command post is knowing about this affair, that the Air Force is not getting engaged either by SAM-2 or SAM-3 or the fighters, that time that artillery, L-17 and as well as Tiger Cat missiles will be placed under gun-free control. So that is the way the synchronization of the firing takes place between these two armed forces, the two wings of the armed forces. That is as far as this fighting point of it. Now coming to the technical point of it, when it was telling SAM-3 or SAM-2, ultimately the SAM-2 is a bit of long range and firing purpose, and salvo can be salvo 1. One is the one firing, salvo 2 or salvo 3 is also there in case of emergencies. So 3 missiles can be fired. Salvo 1, salvo 1, salvo 2, salvo 3. So the third missile is a very rare combination, because the range resolution of these missiles fired in which mode? That is, it fired in the receding mode, or it is in the approach mode. So when it is approach mode or receding mode, there will be a range resolution differences will be there. In that range resolution differences, as the system has been said already, let it be SAM-2 or SAM-3 or Divina or Pichora, a point of it, when particularly the signals which have been transmitted, they are making different systems. That is, suppose coordinate system and the command generation system and the launch system and the antenna system, transceivers, and the launcher system. And the launcher system is synchronized with the control cabin, where the ops officer is a guidance officer and will be observed by the two people. One will be the senior ops officer and another will be the actual guidance officer who will be launching it. And apart from that, there will be 2 trackers who will be tracking 2+2 trackers. One will be on optical modes or one will be on the radar mode. So when the radar mode or optical mode, when they are firing, that will be 2 different issues altogether. In the optical mode is bit difficult, purely depends on the ability of the tracker who is sitting on the antenna side, and the radar point of it, radar mode when you are firing, that will be purely on the signal generation of the SBECA system. That SBECA system, or the system which is having the command generation, the coordination system and the command generation system put together with the common T&R, the 2 T&Rs will be different in the missiles. So in a brief, this is how. When it comes to the P-30M radar or the P-12 or P-15 radars, let it be any radars, particularly, but for example, P-30M radar, it is having the power of 6 megawatts power. the 6 megawatts power with the 0.03 degrees resolution of the azimuth, and it is having the 3 indicators, which is having the plane position indicator and the height finding indicator and the azimuth indicator. When the 3 things are basically synchronized for a purpose, then the fighter controller is monitoring it. When the fighter controller is monitoring, he is watching the 3 boats, tactical air mission, totally what the Air Marshal Joshi sir, Goen sir, and all the Longewala hero also, Group Captain Das sir, they have briefed it very well, that ORP and the scramble point. When the wing command post clears that GCI is to take the autonomous decision on the scramble point of it, that scramble will be from the ground control interception, that will be a fighter control, where generally experienced person will be there, because the tracks are getting identified within 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds, a track has to be established. It is an unknown track, or it is an identified track, or it is a friendly track. If that is not properly identified, then the whole system will go back. But that will never happen, because the air defense clearance system, which is there for the government of India, that as a whole, from the aviation as well as air defense point of it, the air defense safety systems or the air defense control that we call or air defense clearance. So under the air defense clearance, the India is having certain PDRs. PDRs and predetermined routes, the D72, Green 52, Green 11, and there are so many, and Red 19. There are so many PDRs which are available overhead of the India. And this overhead of the India, when they were flying in those areas, what is that ADC? That means air defense clearance will be available with up to the air headquarter ops room, plus up to the ground level of GCI, which is actually the controller system. So when this system is working, between the command also will be coming, that command post and wing command post and the base ops. So that's why the system goes in a hotline. Within a fraction of a second, this information goes. Now it is a automated artificial intelligence is there in the modern days. In those days, it was not artificial intelligence. It's the intelligence of the people who are working. So that is where the system works in a nutshell. And when that system will be bifurcated because of the 6 megawatts power it's having. So thereby it is so accurate that you cannot miss any target beyond the 2.5 blank zone, 2.5 kilometers of blank zone. So when you are having that information with you from the range of 400 kilometers, when you are operating from Jammu sector or Pathankot sector or the Bikaner, for example, when you are operating up to Sargodha also and beyond that also. So there is no question of missing of a target which is coming from that western sector, or let it be a eastern sector also. And further, technically the operational point of it, see, as I have explained that how the missile system works and how the army is synchronized with the air defense safety system, rather with the wing command post, and the GLO is sitting at the GCI level. So that's where that ground attacks, rather ground firing system from the armed forces, either it will be a Tiger Cat missile or it will be a L-17 guns. One aspect is synchronized. The another aspect is, as per the radar's point of it, it is a total system is there, missile system, or it will be aircraft system. And as all the systems are on ORPs and readiness, operational readiness, let it be missile. So there is no absolute confusion in this system. Only as the people know bit by bit, they feel the gaps. But if somebody can understand the system of army and the air force, how they work in the air defense safety system or air defense warfare system, there is nothing confusion, there is nothing gap, and perfectly it works very well, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for all the knowledge in this subject. I think you got a lot of knowledge in this particular subject, as you have to, I think, more than 15 years or 20 years on the radars, being the radar fitter.
Sir, one small thing I would like to add. The Indian Air Force, when 1981, when I joined, into the 7BRD, that time I have done some modification for the P30M radars for radio relay system, which was never functional in Russian as well as in Indian Air Force. Both. So it is me, I made it to work for Russians as well as Indians. So that is the reason Russians, on the request of Russians, Indian Air Force has screened my posting from 81 to 88 to support the Director General of Ground Radars in Vayu Bhavan, to support what the total operational system of the Indian Air Force, that is called radar signal chain. So the radar signal chain, technically, I was almost handling on the hotline of 254SU, 252SU.
I think you need to be given a full session. Really great.
I would like we must be given a chance, one complete session.
Yeah, that's what I feel, sir. He has such a vast knowledge. He needs a full session, not a questionnaire kind of thing. Yeah, anyway, thank you, Subhash Chandra Bose garu, for your in-depth knowledge in this. Yes, sir, I think it is really wonderful. And we have learned so much from you and our Brigade Apte, sir. Even Karnik sir also saying something on this, apart from our Gadre sir, the main speaker. So I think we are gone into the third hour now. We need to have a break. So thank you all our participants of today, and particularly our main speaker, Vinkamada Gadre sir, for all the knowledge about the missiles and the radar systems and missile operation, which it was not known to any one of us now. So it's a great learning from you. And I, on behalf of all our Air Warriors groups of 71 war heroes and super Air Warriors and all the participants, I give a big salute. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on these aspects. And I also would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to Brigade Apte sir, Group Captain Das sir, Wing Commander Karnik sir, Wing Commander Quatra sir, and all my other brothers like Ale Garu, Subhash Chandra Bose, then we have Amina Garu, then Sapre Saab, Bhavani Shankar Garu, Varun Mutte, Ramesh Sathe Saab, Sethi Saab, Naidu Garu, and Balinga Saab, Group Captain Gohain Saab, and all the other participants for actively participating and making these programs to become unstoppable in that way. So thank you all so much, sir. Have a wonderful day. Good night.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Good night.
Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you.